all can see screen which I shared? Hello, teachers. Hmm? Hmm? Hello, ma'am. You all can't see the screen which I'm sharing. But nobody is telling me na, that everybody is muted. Oh, 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 oh. So, a very warm welcome. Very warm welcome to all of you teachers, and apology for the technical glitches here. We should start with the session now. Okay, so here you have a poem, Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, yes, sir, 3 bags full. One for the master and one for the dame and one for the little boy who lives down the lane. Over here, teacher, I would like you to frame some questions. Some question that I want from here, from this poem. What all you can see in the poem, the phrases over here, you can prepare some question from your teachers. Can I have some questions?
May I try, Rabu ma'am?
Can I have some questions here, teachers?
May I try, Rabu ma'am?
Okay, so here in the chat box I am having, because I think uh, your voice not reaching to me due to some internet issue. How many bags was there? So you can make so many questions on this. How many bags of wool are there? How many for the master and how many for the dame? And you can mathematically, you can calculate the weight of this wool, 4.5 plus 1.5 plus 3 kg. And who is the writer, who is the author of this poem? That is by Rudyard Kipling. Which year? 1888. So this is how you frame questions. So today we are all going to talk uh, about item writing. That is how you frame questions. So I think I'm quite audible to you all. Let us go for next. Today we are going to do item writing, competency based item writing test. First we will see what is item writing, or how you make questions. So competency based item writing test, test item writing, that is your topic for the day. So the objective of this session is, the purpose of today's session is to explore the approach to assessment design, the fundamentals of writing good items, and the different item types that can be used. At the end of the session, you will be able to understand competency-based items, including their mark schemes. So module 1 will have item writing process. Module 2, you will see what is competency. Actually, we will see what is competency. Module 3 will have curriculum aligned competency based test items. So now we are going to have a look on different competency based test item of different subjects. So let's get started with module 1. Here you have in module 1, we will see general guidelines. First of all, what are the general guidelines over here to make any test item writing? So let us see, use either the best answer or the correct answer format. Avoid the complex multiple type K format. Example, A and D, A and C, all the above, none of the above, A, B and C, etc. Format the item vertically, not horizontally. Allow item for editing and other types of item revisions. Use good grammar, punctuation and spelling consistently. Minimize examinee reading time in phrasing each item. Avoid trick items, those which mislead or deceive examinees into answering incorrectly. Next, base each item on an educational or instructional objective. Focus on a single problem at a time. Keep the vocabulary consistent with the examinee's level of understanding. Avoid queuing one item with another. Keep items independent of one another. Use the author's examples as a basis for developing your items. Avoid over-specific knowledge when developing the item. Avoid textbook or verbatim phrasing when developing the item. Avoid items based on opinions. So these are some general guidelines for writing test item, that is multiple choice. Use multiple choice to measure higher level thinking. Test for important or significant material. Avoid trivial material. State the STEM in question form or completion form. STEM means the main part of the question. Ensure that the directions in the STEM are clear and that wordings let the examiner know what is being asked, what exactly you want to ask. Avoid window dressing, use of excessive verbiage in the STEM. Excessive use of words or complex phrases or too many things together, too many wordings in the question should be avoided. What does STEM positively? That means your question should have a positive approach. You should avoid negative phrasing when you frame question for multiple choice questions. Include the central idea and most of the phrasing in the STEM. That means in your question. Use as many options as are feasible. More options are desirable. Note the recent research suggests 4 or 5 options. Place options in logical or numerical order. Keep options independent. Options should not be overlapping. So these are some general guidelines for multiple choice question, that is the test item writing. Keep all options in an item homogeneous in content. So when you are giving one question, the distractor should be of related concept. It should not be something very different and give them some clue. So it should be homogeneous in content. Select from the same content and from there you can have some distractors. Keep the length of the option fairly consistent. Length of the options also matters over here. Avoid or use sparingly the phrase all of the above. All these should be avoided. Avoid or use sparingly the phrase none of the above. In the options, you should avoid this. Avoid use of the phrase I don't know. Phrase options positively, not negatively. Avoid distractors that can clue test-wise examinees. For example, avoid clang associations, absurd options, formal prompts, or semantic. That means overly specific or overly general clues. So you have to be very careful when you give options. You should not mislead children, or at the same time, you should not give them some clues. Okay, then make sure there's one and only one correct option. So when there should be no ambiguity, and the option where the child will see more than one correct option, and then that create a confusion for the child as well, and the ambiguity in the question will not actually deserve marks. So item writing process here, developing an item. How you develop an item? First of all, how you develop questions. So here you have two main this thing to developing an item. You need to have mark scheme and question over here. You need to, while making an item, these two entities or mark scheme and question very, very important. First of all, think of an idea for a task. You have to decide for a task, decide what level of evidence it should elicit it, and write what is the purpose of this item. You have to choose properly. Now, teachers, we need to end the meeting over here. You all kindly rejoin with the same link. I need to end the meeting here. Kindly rejoin with the same link. Kindly rejoin with the same link, teachers. I need to end the meeting here. Here we were talking about how to develop an item. First, you need to think of an idea for a task, decide what level of evidence it should elicit. Right, what's the purpose? The purpose of this item need to be very clear. Choose an appropriate type of mark scheme. For an unconstrained task, you will need a level of response mark scheme. Wow, the unconstrained means the limitless. Constraint means limited words. Unconstrained task means it is not limiting to certain words. And for semi-constrained tasks, which require some form of judgment by the assessor, when marking, you will need a level of response. So let us see this in detail here. Level of evidence, single word or number, task type, question type, response, marks, and marking. So now first, level of evidence which is shown by the child or by the responder. Judge or explain. This task type is unconstrained. Constrained, as I said, it is going to limit to certain number of words. So unconstrained is not going to limit with the words. Like question type, you have essay, performance, project. Response will be longer, open-ended response, and marks will be usually 5 or more marks. Marking will be a level of response. And next level you have explain or describe. This is semi-constrained. So you will have some limited number of words over here. That's why it is semi-constrained, where you have short answers. And the response type over here will be sentences written by the students. Marks normally lesser than 5. Here the marking is point based all levels of response. Now, next one, describe or state. This type of questions where you have very constrained. So it is going to limit the response into certain number of words. This question type, short answer or objective type questions. The response over here will be single word or number or select from a list. Marks, usually a single mark per question. It will be a point based or objective. Let us go for next. Now the fifth point in how we draft question. Here you need to have a elaborate on this. Draft the item, how you are going to draft the item. Here you need to have a mark scheme and question. So ensure that the mark scheme will reward what is important, the purpose. Ensure that the mark scheme will reward what the question asks for. Ensure that the command words will elicit the evidence you want. Iterate means repeat these three until you are sure as possible that the target pupils will know what they are expected to do. Their minds will be trying to do what we want to see, if they can do, the evidence of what is important. The mark scheme will reward them for how well they do it. Higher scores means better at geography or English. The item does address the point in step 3. So all these are some guidelines and way of writing an item for the test. Normally, when we prepare question, we don't keep into account into all this consciously, but henceforth, some guidelines we need to follow so that the very important in the teaching learning process, that is the assessment, such a important tool that has to be administered properly, where your framing of the question becomes very much instrumental in understanding the child's learning outcome. So, and you should also know how far your learning objective has been achieved. So, framing of the questions, that means the item which you make, that becomes extremely important, because that is going to decide how far your objective or teaching is achieved, and you will know the learning outcome as well. So let us go for next. Here you have some command words which will help you to prepare questions. Command words are also known as task words, because this is going to decide the task which you are going to frame for the child. They tell you how to answer a question. By understanding these words, you will know what type of answers to give and how to structure them. They are found in all subjects and modules, as they are used to test your knowledge on a topic. In order to make our questions as clear as possible, we should select the right command words. Command words should link to the assessment objective. So for what we are assessing a child, whether we are assessing the child for the whether the child knows how to draw the diagram, or whether the child able to recall what the child has learned or recall knowledge, or whether you want to know whether the child understood, you want to assess the understanding of the child about some process or some phenomenon or some importance or some significance. All that command was extremely important, and we will see command words in detail. They should make clear to students about the tasks they need to do. So selection of the command was extremely important. That is because it is going to decide, this command words will decide what you actually want to assess, what you want to child, what kind of response you are expecting from the child. This command was, that's why it's so very important. So let us have some command words over here. You have evaluate, assess, analyze, define, compare, contrast, discuss, identify, outline, summarize. All these we normally use when you prepare some test items. So evaluate means, like today's session, you are going to fill a feedback form to evaluate how well the session was organized, whether the resource person was knowledgeable enough. That is how you are going to evaluate. So that type of questions become evaluation questions, where you are being judgmental over here. You are going to judge. And similarly, you normally use all this analyze, assess, define. Compare means you are comparing two entities. Suppose, for example, you are comparing day and night, sunrise and sunset. Contrast, more or less similar to compare. So, discuss the significance of civil disobedient movement. Identify some parts of the diagram. You need to outline the importance of um, following traffic rules. Summarize some content. You need to should be able to comprehend. I need to condense the passage given. The child will summarize. So all that commanding words will help the child to know what actually expected. Explain. Explain means higher order skill including application. This kind of command expect a higher order skill, and which also include application. So explain the process of water cycle. The, okay, that the child is expected to explain in each and every stages of the water cycle, and how water becomes so very precious resource. All that becomes application. Describe comes in recall application of knowledge, where the child has learned something. So that will be recall, like state Newton's first law recalling. Normally they uh, learn it and then they recall. Application of the knowledge also can be under description. State also, state the laws of reflection. So you're just asking the child to state it, not to explain over it. Stating means you just have to state those laws of reflection. So again, your recall of knowledge. Now calculate, plot, draw, use in maths and science. These are normally used in mathematics and science. What, why, how, why. Often used in English, but maybe later, maybe it can be combined with the other command words, especially in maths and science. We use explain why, describe how. All these are commanding words, and this is these are pointers for the child to give the response. So today in the open day must have realized your child well prepared, the parents complaining child has not done well because child was not able to comprehend the question properly, or the child have not understood the question properly, or child got misled with the question. So we have to be very careful when we frame questions. So this is how some of the guidelines of the test item writing, which we can normally follow henceforth. Types of mark scheme, here you have two main types, point based and level of response. Point based, student response is matched to items on the mark scheme and points are awarded for correct matches. Example, what is the fourth color of a spectrum of light? Mark scheme green, that is 1 mark. So this is normally you have 1 mark question. So your student is a point based. Just you expect 1 point from the child. Student response matched to the items on the mark scheme and points are awarded for the correct matches. Now, level of response, student response is compared to a series of levels, each of which describe a particular performance. So we will see the level of responses after this, what kind of level of responses we have and what mark scheme can be given. So over here you have, we will go from a higher to a lower order. 5, level 5, mark scheme 9 to 10. Descriptor over here for this kind of question, a sustained critical analysis of the ways in which the writer achieves the effects, or a sustained convincing personal response to the task. So we are expecting too much from the child, too many things, too many points over here. So the mark scheme will be 9 to 10. Next level, well-developed and clear analysis of the ways in which the writer achieves her effects. Clear, well-developed personal response to the task. So here the marks to be awarded 7 to 8. Third one, a generally reasonably developed explanation of some effects. Reasonably competent personal response to the task. That is 5 to 6 marks. Some straightforward comment on some features of the writing. Some evidence of a personal response underdeveloped. That is for 3 to 4 marks. Limited evidence of a critical awareness. Limited awareness of the task, 1 to 2 marks. Nothing to reward, that is 0 marks. So this is the example level of the test of the mark scheme. Module 2, we are going to see dimensions of competence. What are the, till now we have seen item writing. What is item writing? That is the assessment item writing, that is a test item writing. Now why we need to have a competence in item writing? Why a normal or a regular assessment is not that feasible? Why we need to have that much of competency in the children? What type of questionnaire will help with the child to develop different type of competency? How can we avoid rote learning by including competency-based test item writing? So first of all, we will see what are the dimensions of competence. Here we have 3 dimensions. Knowledge, that is information. It is to know what. Then skills, that is technique. That will tell you know how. Attitude, that is want to do. That is the determination. So these are the 3 dimensions of competence. All 3 together will help to develop competence. So these are the 3 dimensions of competence: knowledge, skills, and attitude. What do you mean by competence? There are lots of definitions of competency. Each country and type of qualification may apply different meaning. Example, in the UK, competency is mostly used in vocational qualification related to trades. So here the competency is developed among students so that they develop some kind of professionalism, some kind of skills which can be used in real life situations where they can apply, and it's more on a vocational basis actually. Competency is defined in terms of what a person is required to do. That is performance. Under what conditions it is to be done and how well it is to be done. That is going to set the standard of competence. For NCRT, it is taken more broadly as how well a candidate can demonstrate learning outcomes related to a set of content defined by the board. The consequence is that the NCRT curriculum has to be matched to the relevant CBSE syllabus content to define what can be assessed. Now here we have 5 core competencies. When we are talking about competency-based item test item writing, we should know what are the 5 core competencies so that when we are preparing questionnaire based on competency, not possible to include all 5, but at least we can have some of them in our questions. We will become conscious about it. We'll try to put some questionnaire, some competency based questionnaires where we will see among all these 5 competency, at least we can include some in that. So let us see what are the 5 core competencies. In our framing questions, we cannot have all 5 together, but at least we can include some. So these are the 5 core competencies which we are trying to develop among students. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. So when you are preparing competency-based test item writing, we need to see that over here whether we are touching upon any one or more than one of these 5 core competencies. So when you are making questions for the test, case study questions or multiple choice questions, can we have in our respective subjects, can we have at least one core competencies? So we will try to do that. Henceforth, module 3. So now competency-based item writing project, competency-based assessment is so very important. Here we have a project for the competency-based assessment. And how competency assessment is so very important. Why we need to avoid rote learning. As we know, rote learning, children won't be able to relate to the real life situation. The core idea of this is to develop all those life skills among children because they have to face the real world finally. So with kind of assessment we are going to have, can we develop some kind of competencies among them? So let us see. Let me see if it is possible to show a video on competency based assessment. Hmm. Video can't be shown. The internet is not supporting actually. So now let us see curriculum aligned competency based test items. English class 10. We will see subject wise for English class 10. First flight unit 2. Nelson Mandela long walk to freedom. Okay, so this has been taken from the topic which we say I said just now over here. This is from First Flight Unit 2, Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. Why does Mandela use the word pleasantly besieged? So this kind of questionnaire for like on case study. In the second paragraph of the text, the lovely sandstone amphitheater is highlighted as what? An unusual seat of government, an important symbol of democracy, a symbol of contrast between the past and the present, a historic symbol of the struggle for freedom. So here it's an MCQ type. What were the two ideas intended to be conveyed by the display of military force? So here you can have a case study question on that chapter and some competency-based questions you can prepare where the child will, it will help the child to develop some kind of competencies which we have seen, the 5 core competencies teachers. And please don't forget the dimensions of the competencies which we have seen. What is the extraordinary human disaster Nelson Mandela mentioned in his speech? So all this type of questionnaire, that is a case study questions which you are going to have, actually relate the child to the real world. What lesson did Mandela learn about courage? Here you have the options. So is it taking care of all the guidelines which we have discussed for the multiple choice questions? You need to avoid none of the above, all of the above. See the consistency of the distractors. All this has to be taken care of when you are doing multiple choice questions, which I have already discussed. Curriculum aligned competency based test items, mathematics class 6, chapter 4, basic geometrical ideas. Okay, so now over here, Joy learns the art of knitting from his grandmother. So let us see, first of all, when you have a concept, basic geometrical ideas, for class 6, mathematical concepts remain abstract to them unless we give them some real life examples. So over here,
Excuse me, Rabu ma'am.
grandmother,
Excuse me, Rabu
can
ma'am.
we have a connection between concept of mathematics with knitting? Yes, let us see which of the following pictures can be an example of line segment. So this becomes very interesting for the child also, and this can develop in child some kind of competencies. What kind of competencies can be developed over here? Yes, Parvati ma'am. What kind of competencies can be developed over here?
Yeah, good evening.
I cannot
Good
hear
evening,
you. That is the main glitch today. And
Good evening, Rabu ma'am. Okay, no worry.
Okay, so now yeah, the child can relate to the knitting concept to a line segment, where child will be able to understand what is a line segment with the help of the threads, knitting threads. Then we can have how many lines can pass through a point? One more question here, how many lines can pass through a point? That also can be illustrated with the help of the knitting process. So here the child can see the real life examples and can relate to the mathematical concepts. Then which of the following is an open curve? Here again, some real life examples to show open curve. Once the concept is clear with the child will be able to answer these kind of questions and will be able to relate to some practical life situations examples. Why is the below figure not considered a polygon? So now whatever the child has learned can apply to some concepts which we can use in the form of application of those concepts. So why is the below figure not considered a polygon? So child has learned that polygon is made up of line segments, and here one of the side is not a straight line. So this figure is not a considered not a polygon. So this concept child can will be very interesting for the children. Curriculum aligned competency based test, mathematics class 9, coordinate geometry. How could we relate it to the real life? How can we make it competency based? So here you can have a coordinate geometry with the, you can have a printouts of this 1 unit on the graph paper represent 1 kilometer. So how this can be a competency. How can we develop some problem solving skill in children? Decision making skills, some social awareness, self awareness, all those 5 core competencies which we have learned, can we bring into our questioning skills? Can we bring into in our item writing? So here we can have this kind where the coordinate geometry remains in the notebook and the textbook itself for the child, because theoretically the child is learning drawing coordinates, drawing all those coordinate points and all that in the graph paper. How can we have this link to a real life situation where is nearest to a paved road? So we can have MCQ based on this. So child will be able to, because with this, when you are providing this to the child, will be able to coordinate all what all concept there on this graph paper, we'll be able to find. This is how we can show that how this coordinate geometry is so very important to locate things in a real life. So these are type of MCQs we can have, like this question from the control room, the forest rescue team can help the bear been injured. 467. Which road should they take? So actually, the road mapping can also be done. How far is bear 425 from road X? This kind of competency can be developed among children with coordinate geometry. So that becomes very interesting for the child. It will not be only theoretical in the books, just solving sums based on coordinate geometry. We can have some real life examples, and that can develop some competencies among them. This kind of assessments actually will develop. It will avoid rote learning actually. A tiger is at 11.4. How far from it is the nearest bear? So the child know how to plot or coordinate points on the graph paper. We will be able to easily able to find answer from the choices which you are going to give. This becomes very interesting for the children actually. Curriculum aligned competency based test items, science, biology, or class 10, chapter 9, hereditary and evolution. Here you have some illness or some disease or some disorder are genetic. Some are due to environmental factors. So this concept will be clear with the children with this kind of case study questions, which will develop some problem solving skills among the children. It will develop a knowledge to link how the concept can be linked to the real life situations, what they have done. So hereditary and environmental factors, all that can be related here with this kind of illness which you have or injuries. So if you have this kind of injuries, seen in, you can have a picture like this, and we need to give a paragraph base because we need to describe what exactly it is. So the dancer get injured. So let us see some question on this case study. Why do you think ballerinas are made to do these to their toes? Do you think these injuries will make any changes in their DNA or genes? Will their offspring be born with such feet? Is it an acquired or inherited? So this kind of questionnaires will be a competency based test item writing where the child will be able to find out whether this kind of injuries will pass to the generation or no. First, we need to clear the concept about the injuries due to environmental factors and what are the illness which will pass through or what are the diseases which pass through genes. Then the child will be able to relate these concepts to such competency-based questions. Now here you have this another kind of disorder where a healthy person can have a proper clotting of the blood, and where a person suffering from hemophilia will inability to clot the blood. So this kind of diagram based, what are the problems associated with the hemophilia? How does this disease get transferred? Do you think this will make any changes in the DNA or genes? Or can the offspring be born with such diseases? Does the female have more chances to get the diseases or the male? Is it an acquired or inherited? So all these kind of questionnaires which is related to the practical life situations, you can have this kind of case study questions with some pictures, with some paragraphs. Teachers, please join again. I need to end the meeting here, and this is the last time you are going to join with the rejoin with the same link. Kindly rejoin.
ऐसा दीदी अरे ऐसा कॉपी किए बेबी
Conjoined teachers, I'm ending the meeting here. Class 10 हिंदी कहानी लेखन जैसे करनी वैसे भरनी. So this is a very rich topic where you have kahani lekhan. Instead of asking children to develop a story on jaisi karni waisi barni, with a message from this story, we can have a case study type where we can give some real life examples or real life case studies, paragraph or passage. From there, we can have some competency based questions. So instead of asking children to develop a story on that is Jaisi Karni, Vaisi Bharni, that is a Kahani Lekhan normally as given, I think that you can have some competency based questions on this for class 10 Hindi. Some kind of competencies will be developed with this kind of stories. 5 core competencies, that is social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, all those 5 core competencies which we have seen. 5 core competencies which we have seen. That is, I think it's visible to everyone. So in 5 core competencies which we have seen, you will develop some kind of knowledge, skills and attitude with this kind of story. We will try to give a story which will relate to some real life situations where an individual will learn, as you saw, so shall you reap. That kind of message can be given. And some kind of competencies like 5 core competencies which we have: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, decision making, some relationships skills can be developed with this kind of competency based questions on the story of Jaisi Karni Vaisi Bharni. So thank you so much, everyone. I need to end the session here.